Humans have always been an incredibly inventive species. You wouldn't be watching this video on the internet if we weren't. However, if you think we are more innovative now than our ancestors were hundreds or even thousands of years ago, you're very wrong. Allow us to prove the truth of that statement to you with this video. Gunpowder, originally discovered by Chinese monks in the 9th century during their quest for a life-extending elixir, revolutionized warfare and shaped the course of history. This explosive mixture of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal changed from a quest for immortality to a tool for conquest. The spread of gunpowder technology, facilitated by the Mongol invasions, marked the beginning of a new era in military tactics and global trade. The development of gunpowder was not just a matter of combining ingredients. The real breakthrough came with the perfecting of the formula, a mix that would ignite reliably and powerfully. By the 14th century, Europeans enhanced gunpowder's efficiency by creating corned powder, which involved forming the mixture into a wet paste that was then dried and broken into granules, making it safer and more consistent. This innovation significantly improved the performance of early firearms and explosives. The quest for saltpeter, the essential ingredient of gunpowder, spurred global exploration and exploitation, akin to the scramble for oil centuries later. European powers, particularly the British and Dutch, established trading companies to secure a steady supply from saltpeter-rich regions like India, underlining the strategic importance of this commodity of empire. The Phoenician joints, an innovative locked mortise and tenon technique, revolutionized ancient shipbuilding, originally discovered by the pioneering Phoenicians. This crafty method involved cutting sockets in the edges of two planks and fastening them with a wooden knob, further secured by driving a dowel through the assembly. This robust construction method allowed for the development of sturdier seaworthy ships, contributing significantly to the Phoenicians' reputation as exceptional mariners. The technique spread throughout the ancient Mediterranean, adopted by Greek and Roman shipbuilders after witnessing its effectiveness, especially noted during the First Punic War, when the Romans quickly constructed a fleet inspired by a captured Phoenician ship. This ancient joinery technique, known for its strength and reliability, underscored the Phoenicians' influential role in naval architecture and their pivotal position in maritime history. The discovery of Phoenician joints in shipwrecks like the Oloburan and Cape Gelidonia vessels offers tangible evidence of the Phoenicians' extensive seafaring activities and their skilled craftsmanship that left a lasting legacy on shipbuilding techniques worldwide. The ingenious Aztecs of Central America, once a nomadic tribe shunned to the marshy edges of Lake Tenochtitlan in what is now Mexico, turned adversity into innovation with the creation of chinampas. These were essentially early hydroponic systems, floating islands made from rafts of rushes and reeds piled with fertile soil dredged from the lake bottom. This remarkable invention allowed them to cultivate vegetables, flowers, and even trees directly on the water's surface. As these floating gardens thrived, they transformed the Aztecs' harsh living conditions, enabling them to sustain and grow their population despite being initially denied arable land by their rivals. The chinampas were not just agricultural lifesavers. They became a symbol of Aztec resilience and ingenuity, allowing them to rise from oppressed wanderers to dominant empire builders. Their capital, once a crude village, blossomed into a magnificent city, thanks in part to the chinampas' productivity. The floating islands, some reaching up to 200 feet in length and occasionally housing a resident gardener, astounded the conquering Spaniards with their lush greenery and practical design. These ancient floating gardens, which continued to be used into the 19th century, highlight the Aztecs' remarkable adaptability and their contribution to early sustainable farming practices, inspiring modern-day hydroponic systems. Iron smelting is a dangerous process even when it's carried out in blast furnaces today. It was arguably even more dangerous more than 1,000 years ago, unless you happen to live in Sri Lanka, where an ingenious new technique for iron smelting emerged in either the 9th or 10th century. The Sri Lankans came up with a sort of forced draft shaft furnace. Effectively, it's an iron smelting facility powered by the wind. There are several such furnaces in and around Samanalawiwa, all of which are positioned on the western sides of hills and ridges, where they would often be exposed to high winds during monsoons. The regular wind wouldn't be strong enough to power these ingenious furnaces, but monsoon winds would be enough to produce high-quality, high-carbon steel. Archaeological evidence at Samanalawiwa suggests that this was once the dominant industry in the region, and might have made a significant contribution to South Asia's early mastery of steel production. While we might have called it relatively safe a few moments ago, we must point out that the people who worked at these furnaces would have had to stand outside during monsoons, so perhaps it wasn't so safe after all. Queshuachaca Bridge in Peru is a marvel of Incan engineering that's been around for half a millennium. This isn't just any bridge. It's a 120-foot-long grass rope suspension bridge that's been continuously built and rebuilt for 5 centuries. Every spring, local communities gather for a ceremony of renewal where they construct a new bridge to replace the old one. This bridge was once the only link between villages on either side of the Apurimac River, and it was part of the Great Inca Road, a network that spanned nearly 25,000 miles. Even though a metal bridge has been built nearby for cars, the locals still prefer to use this ancient marvel for foot traffic. Inscribed in UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list in 2013, the bridge is a living testament to the Incan culture that still thrives at the village level. The methods of building the bridge have remained largely unchanged, passed down through generations. It's not just a bridge, it's a symbol of community, tradition, and the enduring brilliance of ancient engineering. Before Mount Vesuvius erupted in the year 79 and ruined everything, Pompeii was a thriving Roman city full of all the latest cultural innovations and facilities. If you'd been there, you might have been surprised by how many seemingly modern things it had to offer you. It even had fast food snack bars, known as Thermopylae. Over 80 Thermopylae have been found so far at the archaeological site of Pompeii, which is still being excavated to this day even though it was discovered in 1748. The name Thermopylaeum translates into English as place that sells hot items. While the menu would have varied from one place to another, meals would usually be made by the vendor at home and then brought to the Thermopylaeum to be heated up and then sold to customers, usually at low prices. In many ways, it was the ancient ancestor of the microwave meal. Spiced wine is known to have been a fixture at the majority of these fast food venues, as was baked cheese. It was the perfect place to stop for a drink with friends in the evening, or to grab a quick meal on the way to an important meeting elsewhere in the city. The roots of plastic surgery can be traced back over 4,000 years to ancient India, specifically to the Sushruta Samhita, a part of the Atharvaveda, one of the 4 Vedas of the Hindu tradition. This comprehensive text by Sushruta, often hailed as the father of Indian surgery and father of Indian plastic surgery, illustrates advanced surgical knowledge and techniques of its time, especially in plastic surgery. The Sushruta Samhita details over 120 surgical instruments and 300 procedures and classifies human surgery into 8 categories, emphasizing the importance of anatomical dissection and precise surgical practice. Sushruta's work notably includes techniques for reconstructing noses, known as rhinoplasty, which laid the foundational principles of plastic surgery practiced even today. His methods were so ahead of their time that they later influenced medieval Italian plastic surgery. The text also describes various surgical and non-surgical practices, including the treatment of fractures and dislocations, cataract surgery, and the methodical approach to treating wounds and burns. Sushruta's innovative approaches, such as using wine for anesthesia and detailed descriptions of surgical ethics and post-operative care, highlight a holistic approach to medicine that integrates physical and mental well-being. His teachings, initially preserved in Sanskrit, were later translated across cultures, significantly influencing the global medical field and leaving a legacy that modern-day plastic surgery continues to build upon. The bull-leaping fresco, originating from the Minoan palace at Knossos in Crete, showcases an intriguing part of ancient Mediterranean culture, especially depicting the ceremonial or sportive act known as bull leaping, which dates back to around 1450 BCE. This fresco, housed in the Heraklion Archaeological Museum in Crete, represents a significant aspect of Minoan civilization and offers insights into their advanced artistic techniques and cultural practices. The scene illustrates acrobatic figures engaged in the act of leaping over bulls, a subject deeply ingrained in Minoan art and linked to their religious or ceremonial rites. Arthur Evans, a pivotal figure in the excavation and study of the Knossos site, categorized these representations into circus sports, differentiating them from more realistic cowboy scenes found elsewhere in Minoan art. The fresco's detailed depiction, with figures engaged in a dynamic interaction with a bull, suggests a ritual of significant social reward akin to modern-day rites of passage or sporting accolades. Despite the precise reasons for this practice remaining largely theoretical, the fresco's restoration and study continue to offer fascinating glimpses into the Minoan world, blending artistic mastery with cultural enigma. The Wicker Man, a large effigy used by the ancient Druids for human sacrifice, is a haunting symbol from Celtic history. According to historical accounts, notably by Julius Caesar, these structures were filled with live men, who were then burnt as offerings to appease the gods. Caesar's writings suggest this was especially done during times of disease, battle, or national tribulation, with criminals often chosen as the sacrificial victims, though in times of shortage the innocent were not spared. Strabo, another classical writer, adds that along with humans, animals, and cattle were also placed inside these colossal figures for sacrificial purposes. Despite the terrifying descriptions, it's debated whether the Wicker Man was actually used as described, or if it's a myth amplified by Roman propaganda. Modern engineering insights question the practicality of such structures, as the victims could potentially escape once the wicker was set ablaze. However, this eerie image of the Wicker Man was revitalized and entered popular culture through the 1973 horror film The Wicker Man, where a police sergeant is sacrificed in a pagan ritual. Today, Wicker Men are still constructed for various neo-pagan festivals, but rest assured, they are now used symbolically, and no longer for human sacrifice. A fascinating study has shed new light on a Viking-era wooden fragment, long thought to be a sun compass, suggesting that it may have had a more sophisticated purpose. Discovered in Unartok, Greenland in 1948, this fragment contains lines that initially puzzled scientists. The fragment's half of a round wooden disc with a diameter of about 3 inches features deep scratches, some of which were deliberately engraved. Previously, it was believed that 2 of these scratches were gnomonic lines, marking the paths of a shadow cast by a pointer or gnomon on different days of the year, suggesting the tool was a sun compass used to determine orientation. However, the researchers propose that the gnomonic line truncation and imprecision might indicate the device was used not primarily to determine north, but to help navigators determine local noon and thereby their latitude. This would have been crucial for Viking navigators on their east-west voyages between Greenland and Norway. This new interpretation suggests the instrument was a sophisticated type of sun shadow board, more advanced than previously thought. The findings also hint that Vikings may have had access to more advanced astronomical knowledge and navigational tools than previously believed, possibly through trade connections or social interactions with other cultures. Ziggurats are the ancient ancestors of modern-day apartment buildings. They're large, complex, multi-story, multi-occupancy stone buildings that were once all the rage in ancient Mesopotamia. In fact, it's rare to see a surviving ziggurat anywhere other than within the boundaries of Mesopotamia. But there's a notable exception. This is Cholga Zanbil in Iran, and it's regarded as the best preserved ziggurat in the world. The name translates into English as Basket Mountain, and it was built as a tribute to the Elamite god Inshushinak by King Untash Napirisha roughly 3,270 years ago. As stunning as the ziggurat is, it's unfinished. The king planned for 22 temples to be created inside it, but he passed away after the completion of the 11th, and his successor called a halt to the project. Nevertheless, people continued to live and work inside the ziggurat until it was attacked by the forces of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal in the year 640 BCE. The attack did damage to the structure, but not so much that it couldn't be slowly and carefully excavated by archaeologist Roman Gershman. It took him 10 years of work between 1951 and 1961 to finish the job, but historians agree unanimously it was worthwhile. As seen above, The incredible invention in Gunpowder, Iran, looks like nothing more significant than a series of puckered holes in the ground. That's misleading. This is actually one huge interconnected structure known as kyaras, and it's an ancient miracle of hydraulic engineering. It's one of the greatest surviving examples of an irrigation system known as a qanat, a form of water transportation technology that's still in use in some parts of the world today. Faced with life on a dry plain 3,000 years ago, the ancient Persians knew that the only way to survive was to make water come to them. And that's what kyaras does. The system is made up of underground tunnels that run on for miles, connecting wells to underground reservoirs. The holes visible above provide ventilation to the tunnels and access to water collection. Building just one average-size qanat would take many years, as all the work was done with picks and shovels. Building something the size of kyaras must have taken decades. Systems like this still exist in Libya, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Afghanistan. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!